Hello everyone, Nordic Beast here, and welcome back to the Shipyard. So this here is my Lady in the Dark, which of course I'll get to in a minute. First off, I want to talk about a new series I'm going to be starting, which involves this big building you see off in the distance there. It's going to be called the Foundation. So the way I look at it is, my Shipyard is a showcase for ships I've built, which is what I'm doing today. And it's also about ships and mods that I have found in the workshop that I enjoy and that I want to showcase. Well, the Foundation is going to be the development of the science and the mechanics of space engineers. So it's more along the lines of, hey, I wonder how this works, or I wonder if I could build this or that. And that's essentially what the Foundation is going to be. Now, the big thing I've been working on, which once I release my first episode of it, it'll be about the hydrogen thrusters. I've been doing tons and tons of work on them and found out lots about them, and I will show you what I've found once I post that episode, of course. So today I'm going to show you just ships I've been working on, which includes the one you just saw me flying. But first I just wanted to show a little update here on my Valkyrie. I've updated the color scheme just a little bit. I like the way it looks like this. Originally there was no black up here and there was no red, and I've also changed the tail. Oh, there's also like a darker gray shading I've added. But I finally got rid of the Valkyrie spiky tail, and I think it looks so much better now. I did not want to get rid of that tail, but this makes a lot more sense with the way it's set up. So, also, by the way, if you see these little flashes, like these shadowy flashes, it's because of having so many spotlights up there. Am I getting any? There we go, there was one. So this place is so big I need all these spotlights. So, alright, next up is the Black Widow 2. So I'm gonna put his name down below. I don't recall offhand, but I had asked in one of my recent episodes for advice on what I should build next, and one of the suggestions was something along the lines of like an A10 or an SU-25 Frogfoot. So I used that as an excuse to build something else I've been wanting to build, so it's kind of a combination between the two. So I went with the theme of a heavy attack craft, and this is only a little bit heavier than most of my fighters, but with one hell of a punch. So my guilty pleasure on this was, I love the P-61. It was an American World War II night fighter. I've spoken of it before in some of my older videos. It was this big, beastly fighter. And the first time the British saw it, they looked at it and said, only Americans could come up with such a beast. And perhaps that's why I liked it. They referred to it as a beast. But anyway, again, it's my favorite aircraft. In fact, I've seen one of the very few that still exist in Dayton, Ohio, here in the States, at the Air Force Museum. They have one. I believe that one was Moon Baby, if I'm not mistaken, is the name of that plane. But my favorite one was at the end of the war, called the Lady in the Dark, which is, sorry about that was my cast, which is why I made this. And it matches the Lady in the Dark paint scheme, except for the blue that you see back there. So I was trying to make a P-61 in space. I went through so many versions of this damn fighter. I finally came up with this version tonight. So thankful. It took forever. Last I was working on it, I ended up removing the wings completely, thinking, oh, I don't need wings, and cutting down the tail. It was actually a little bit longer and bigger, and so then I saved it and left it that way. And then when I came back today, I was like, you know what, I'm going to put wings back on it. So these are the wings I ended up coming up with, and I rebuilt the tail, and I think it looks a lot nicer now. So if you've never seen the P-61, it looks like a P-38 Lightning. It had twin booms, twin engines, and it had a horizontal stabilizer in between. I didn't want to do that, and I ended up taking a lot of influence from the Hornet from Star Citizen, as I'm pretty sure it looks obvious, but bulkier. And I figured I wanted to go with something that was similar in layout. The only thing I could find was the Hornet. Well, there's also the Valkyrie from Warhammer 40,000, the Imperial Guard. They changed the name of it. I don't remember what it's called now. But the Imperial Guard have a landing ship called the Valkyrie that's twin boom, and it also has like the horizontal stabilizer there, and I didn't want to go with that. So that's the compromise I made, was that tail, and I think it looks pretty good. And I also went with like these little gun pods. The guns aren't the main armament on this ship anyway, so they're more for aesthetics, and I like the look. And to be honest, I actually stole a little bit of this from another user that's on the workshop. I'll put his name down below. It's like Aragoth or Aragoth, something like that. I'm sorry. He's the gentleman that made the Salvador, and he recently made a new fighter called the Blade. And I think it's kind of ugly, but it's, of course, it's always, for him, it's the details. All the little details he put in that fighter is amazing. And one of the things, of course, is grinding things down. And like this here is actually a small wheel, just ground down to its last stage. And I think that looks cool as hell. I ended up adding small cargo containers so these could have a little extra ammo, and ejectors. So these have to be loaded by hand, as well as the rocket pods, which I'll get to that in a minute. But this Gatling gun is actually conveyed into the ship's system, but it still has the single cargo container there. Just to kind of match the rest of the aesthetics. And I didn't want to have the exact same nose as, you know, like the Valkyrie and pretty much all my other ships. So the nose is all heavy armor. All this is all heavy armor, all to right about here, which I know is weird for me, but I wanted to protect the pilot. This is an attack ship. This is heavy hitting, and I wanted to make sure that the pilot survives. And 9 times out of 10, you're either hit right in the nose or right underneath the nose. So that's where I put all the heavy armor. So, like the A-10 and the Su-25, I wanted a big punch. The thing is the guns in the game just can't do it. So I put 8 freaking rockets on this thing. It fires 4 at a time, left and right. You can fire each one individually, like each side individually. And I will tell you, anything that faces 4 rockets at once pretty much crumbles, as far as fighters go. Just about every fighter I've flown against, they just... If I got a good solid hit with 4 rockets, it was gone. It was just done for, just wreckage floating away. Or if it didn't destroy the cockpit, there wasn't much left of the ship. So the real P-61 also had a turret on top, so I made this a 2-seat fighter, and the second seat is for that turret. And that's also conveyed. Here's the second seat. So there is actually oxygen in here. If you look down below, there's all these controls. Of course, for controlling the gun, for controlling autopilot, so the pilot, or I'm sorry, so if the pilot is dead, you can fly the ship remotely from the back seat. There's also all the antenna controls as well as the emergency beacon. Pretty much, he's a semi-backup pilot, just in case something happens to the first pilot, but his whole purpose is pretty much for the turret, and then also to help with controlling the antenna. Since there's no real radar in the game right now, that's about the closest you can get to any form of detection is the antenna. So he helps operate the antenna. But the thing is, say you're on TeamSpeak, you could also operate a fighter like this, you know, by talking and communicating. He could do like the typing communication. So you kick on that antenna, he can do all, you know, sending messages and things like that, or work with the GPS, and he could also run like the autopilot that way as well. So just ideas for the future, you know, since multiplayer still needs to be fixed. So, but like I said, I'm very pleased with how this finally turned out. Again, I know like the gun loadout isn't the best, but it's more for looks. Well, it's like I said, it's real firepower is in those freaking rockets. Holy crap. I do like how that looks on the inside. I did make one version that got rid of the turret and had 2 more Gatling guns where the turret is firing forward, and the pattern of everything shooting forward looks so cool. So yeah, I'm quite pleased. And all the it has all the cameras and all the features I usually put on most of my fighters. Like I said, the only difference with this one is paint scheme. There we go. Yeah, the only real bad thing is it has 6 thrusters for stopping, and I'm getting used to how thrusters are now, like with the dampeners and all that. On small ships, the dampeners still have ×5 power when slowing down. They used to be ×10. And then large ships, they're just as is. Like, there is no increase in power when stopping. So that kind of sucks. So I made this little guy tonight. Like, seriously, I made this in about half an hour, maybe. I just had a general idea of what I wanted to do, and then I just went from that. And I am probably going to put this in the Glorious Adventure series. I'm not going to talk about exactly what yet, but I do have an idea for it. And this actually turned out to be a pretty decent ship. I like the view from the inside. I love a view from a ship where you can actually see a bunch of the ship from the cockpit view. And the cool thing about this fighter is the very focused Gatling guns. And you also have a nice camera view, as well as 2 rockets right up in the quote-unquote nose. As you see, it's not exactly a nose, but it has 8 reverse thrusters, which it is pretty light. It's at 22,000 kilograms. And it stops very quickly. I named it the Sulphur, which in Norse mythology there's a god of the underworld named Sulphur, and he's a fire giant. There we go. And this is, well, as it says, Sulphur prototype. It will be a prototype at one point. So, like I said, I don't want to get too much into it, but its overall performance is almost that of the Valkyries. I would say it accelerates a little faster and it's a little bit more nimble. The weapons are also slightly more focused. They're just a little closer together. I think by 1 block, actually. All the weapons are 1 block closer to the center. But it has far less directional control. It only has 3 side thrusters instead of, I think, 4 on that one? And then it has 4 up and down thrusters instead of the 6 up and down. And then it has less reverse, or, rear thrusters. It has no small in the rear. So, yeah, it's more nimble, but its directional control is not nearly as good. And because it's more nimble, it's also not as good a gun platform. It's always that balance. Like, the more nimble your ship, the less accurate you are. Like, the less delicate you can be with your accuracy. So that kind of sucks. So, next up, I'm going to show something I developed specifically for the Foundation, and will be in the first episode, but I can showcase the ship here. This is the Cobra. This is a fully functioning hydrogen-powered fighter. More of an interceptor, really. It does work, but this too is also simply a prototype because nobody would ever actually build this in their right mind for survival. I found that the oxygen generators with ice are smaller and last longer than the hydrogen tanks, which I'm sure tomorrow, on Thursday, they will rebalance all that. But I am very happy with how this turned out. It's a little on the heavy side, 28,000 kilograms, but it's full of ice. And in survival, it burns off this ice very, very quickly. It has about 2 minutes burn time total. So that's it, 2 minutes. But I didn't even give it guns. All it has is rockets. And that would be it, just those 4 shots. And then it would return home as quickly as possible. And the thing is this would actually accelerate faster as it burns more fuel, which the term is delta V. It's your weight to, well, your mass compared to your reaction fuel, or the ice, to your acceleration, and your continued increasing acceleration as you lose mass from burning off the fuel. So, yeah, this is not a bad ship, but the problem is you would need a bunch of these. Like, they would only be good at point defense, and they couldn't dogfight, they couldn't escort. All they could do is just intercept a target quickly. So the general idea I came up with is, say you have a base, say you know you're under attack by a large ship, or say custom-built missiles, like, the big laser antenna missiles that I myself have developed some of. Say you know those are coming. you send these bad motherfuckers after him. It can quickly knock him out and then return home. These are cheap to build. Like, as far as materials go, they require far less than any other fighter I've ever made. Its overall weight is only 14,000 kilograms empty, but then of course you gotta put 16 rockets in it, and then you gotta put a crap ton of ice. And this one is only loaded up with enough material for realistic mode, so the minimum settings. It's 2,700 ice per generator, and it has 5 oxygen generators. I just put an oxygen tank on here just out of habit, and then after I was done building it, I'm like, I didn't really need that, did I? This thing doesn't fly long enough to be worried about that. The Foundation series will be coming up next, like seriously in a day or two. I'll have my first episode out. I think I might wait till after tomorrow. I had recorded an episode of Foundation, but it was so close to Thursday, I'm like, well, I'll wait and see what happens. And my Foundation series might also replace update videos. I did the one last week because that was a huge update. I was so pleased with it, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and, again, update videos will now be part of the Foundation, since it involves the mechanics of the game. So, oh look, I got a little bit floating right here. There we go. So, last little bit was, I've always wanted to have big, giant sliding doors. So that's what I have here at the Foundation. Boop. But they wiggle, as you see here. They were causing explosive problems for a while, and I ended up removing a couple blocks inside, and it seemed to work out. So, yeah, I got my big bouncing doors. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like the series, hit the subscribe button. If you like the episode, hit the like button. I'll see you guys next time.